Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary and high school age, and today I'm going to be sharing part 1 of 2 of my spring refresh, and I will explain that a little bit. So the spring refresh, if you use the Power Sheets, it's a quarterly refresh. They do this at the end of each quarter in the year to refresh your goals, go through your goals. I think it is so valuable to sit down and go through all of your goals, see what's working, what's not working, things you may want to change, if there are parts of your goals that you need to let go of because of the current season you're in, if there are new goals that have come up. I think that that is all very valuable. Now, if you've seen any of my goals videos, you will know that most of my goals are big, overarching goals. They are not finish line goals, as Cultivate What Matters refers to finish line goals. They're big dreams. They are things that will always have areas of improvement. Things like my faith, things like my homeschool, things like, new home management strategies. There are always going to be changes as you get older, as your life changes, as seasons change. And so I understand that there are always going to be changes to my big goals, but my goals are really focused on relationship and how I can improve my relationships with my husband, my kids, my family, my community. And so that's kind of where I come from when I'm talking about my goals. And I do set up my year a little bit differently typically. So typically I do my spring refresh usually at the end of March for April and May. And then I switch into summer mode for June. So I will do my summer refresh at the end of May instead of at the end of June. And then, so my summer is June, July, and August in Maine. And then September, October, November are the fall months. And then December, if you've seen any of my videos in December, you will know that December is just its whole own thing. I do not set goals in December. My focus is on enjoying the season, enjoying my family and the traditions that we have, and looking ahead to the next year. So that is how I kind of structure my year as a whole. Usually about this time, I am really ready for a spring refresh, and I am ready for a spring refresh. I've accomplished the majority of the items on my action plans for this quarter. I feel really good about things. I have had to shift some things, which I will talk about in just a second, but the reason this will be 2 parts is because I'm still going to be focusing on homeschool for the first half of April, and that's really going to be my focus. I'm not going to have time to work on big projects or other parts of my goals, I don't think. And so I won't be doing this part of my refresh probably until the middle of April, and then I will share that with you. But I still do have a lot of thoughts about the first quarter and some just insight that I've gathered as I've gone through and had this first quarter of the year. So I do want to share that with you. So typically during my quarterly refresh or my seasonal refresh, I will sit down and say what's going well and what challenges are going on with my goals. And the reason that I do that is to kind of figure out if I need to make adjustments to these goals. Now, like I said earlier, because my goals are pretty big and general, they're not super specific projects relating to a goal. That is more of my action plan section when I go through my goals and say, what project do I want to work on in order to make progress on this particular area of my life or goal? And so when I started this year, I have 6 goals. A lot of them are a continuation of last year, but one of the new ones is to create a rhythm of renewal. And I've talked about this at length over the past several months. I'm using this book, Rhythms of Renewal by Rebecca Lyons, to kind of go through and help me. It's helping to facilitate what I want my own rhythm of renewal to be. This is things like hobbies. This is things like my passion projects, even though I also have my homeschool goal also relates to my passion. So everything's kind of interconnected. What I didn't realize coming into this first quarter of 2024 is that as I focused on rest, which is the first rhythm of renewal in this book, is the focus of rest, the rest rhythm, that was going to take a lot of my energy. And because I was trying to focus on rest and understand where I needed to rest and not be as tied to a to-do list or just busyness in general, it made me take a step back and realize that there was a real push and pull between focusing on the rest rhythm and some of the big projects that I have related to my goals. Now, I'm mainly thinking about my decluttering, my home management goal, and going through a lot of memory bins and things like that. I thought that I would have more time this quarter to work on those things. Typically, the first quarter of the year is a great time for me to get rid of stuff. After the holidays, I usually have that feeling of, okay, it's time to just get things out of the house. I don't want these things anymore. I feel good about doing that. But I wasn't able to do those projects while still focusing on rest. And the reason is because I had to put all of my mental energy into that rest rhythm because I enjoy working so much, because I like to be busy. I like to be working on projects. I like to declutter and organize. I like to be planning things for homeschool. It took a lot of effort for me to be still. So that was a big light bulb moment for me this quarter, is to realize that I can't always be productive. I want to always be making forward progress. I think that's very important. But sometimes we do not recognize rest as also being something that we are doing, actively doing. And I've spent a lot of time over the last quarter kind of going through these different ideas of rest and how to manage rest and some of the things that are important surrounding rest. One of the big things for me that I have talked about a lot is this tech detox rhythm and taking a step back and understanding how I use technology, how I want to use technology, and putting more boundaries in place throughout my day so that I'm not defaulting to scrolling on social media or work tasks more specifically in my margin time. Now, part of that is because when I started my business, my kids were babies and I needed to work in those margin times in order to build my business. But as my kids have gotten older, I've never shifted away from that feeling of just always working in the margins. And so what has ended up happening is as my kids have gotten older and they're more self-sufficient, school, yes, it takes a lot of time and there's still a lot of effort on my part, especially with my high schoolers. There's a lot of discussion and I'm having to think about a lot of things as we're going through our day. When I have margin time, I always default to work tasks because I feel like I won't have any other time to do those things. But as my kids have gotten older, I do have a lot of time that I can work on things, that we work on our own projects together. That time in the afternoon when everybody is just kind of decompressing from school or playing outside, I don't have to watch my kids as closely as I did when they were babies. So I'm trying to shift out of that mindset of always constantly working in the margins, because what was happening was I would never take time to rest or do things that are not work related, that are just enjoyable for me. Things like reading, things like knitting, things like puzzles and games with my kids, or just sitting down to watch a show or a movie. And so I've really had to actively work at that. I've had to actively work at rest, which seems so strange, but that push and pull on rest while also thinking about all of these big projects that I want to work on this year in relation to home management, decluttering, all of that kind of stuff, it's made me kind of shift things around a little bit. And so I recognized that maybe a couple of weeks ago, it was just kind of a light bulb moment for me, just understanding, well, if you're trying to rest and you're trying to make that a priority, it's going to be hard for you to rest while also actively doing all of these other projects. And so it was just kind of an interesting thing. So my focus for the first quarter really has been the rest rhythm and figuring that out. Again, talking about technology and stuff, which I did a lot in my membership community. I would love for you to come over and check us out if you're interested. We talk a lot about goals and home management and homeschooling. It's a lot of fun over there. So I'm really feeling good about the Create a Rhythm of Renewal goal overall. The next rhythm for this is the restore rhythm. And so that's going to be my focus in quarter two. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to play out. It will kind of depend after I read through the chapters, which I've read this book several times already, but now I'm trying to go through it much more slowly and really just absorb the information, taking like one little chapter at a time instead of just reading it all at one time. So we will see. I think that it's going really well. It's been kind of a deep dive. I've again explained a lot of this over in my membership community. It's a lot of fun. The next goal that I have is Embrace Legacy, and I have been doing okay with this. I would say that it is not at all how I expected my year to go when I came in with Embrace Legacy. I really did think that I was going to start working on more memory keeping things earlier. I started out the year doing 5 minutes of deleting photos, going through my phone, making sure that I was keeping only the pictures on my phone that I wanted to keep and kind of transferring some of those. I haven't continued doing that in February and March. And so I thought that I was doing really well in January. I should have continued that habit on, but I wasn't having as much time to do that as I thought I would because we were so focused on homeschool. And so between the homeschool and the embracing rest, it's been a little bit challenging. So I know that I have a lot of work to do with this Embrace Legacy goal. I have been writing in my kids' journals, not very regularly because again, that was something that I had created last year as part of my AM routine. I have a 3-tier AM routine and it worked really, really well for me until my kids started getting up at 6 or 6:30 once we started back to school in the middle of January. And so I want my kids to have that time that they are able to get up and prepare for the day and do things that they want to do before we start homeschool. But when my kids come downstairs, I can no longer focus as much on those 3 tiers of my morning routine. So my morning routine has really gone from those 3 tiers to just the first tier, and that is okay. And that's part of why I've been trying to figure out these margin times to insert some of those things that I used to do first thing in the morning that I don't have the time for because my kids are awake early. It is just what it is. When my kids get up, we tend to sit and chat, and I just put my stuff away, and that's what it is. And then I move into work tasks before school starts. So there's just not as much time for the AM routine things that I had been doing. Continue to cultivate a life-giving home. That has been going well. Continuing to have my dailies, which are clearing the floors, vacuuming, clearing surfaces, and clearing my office desk. Those 4 things, if I get those done every day, I feel so much better about the house and just how things are running. And it took me a lot of last year to figure that out because I was trying to follow so many different home management routines, not understanding that I have some other things that I just automatically do, like I do the dishes in the morning, I get the breakfast dishes done, I wipe the counters, I prep the table for homeschool. A lot of things are already habits that I don't need to think about. But the daily things, those 4 dailies, even though I don't necessarily have to write them down every day because they are pretty automatic at this point, I know that when I don't do those things, my house just feels chaotic. And so when I am at least able to do those 4 things, if nothing else gets done, I'm still feeling okay because I'm not looking at a ton of visual clutter. And so continuing to cultivate a life-giving home, continuing my dailies, continuing my planning, the way that I do my planning has been very helpful. There are some bigger things that I thought I would get to within this goal, mainly the decluttering projects. I have some big areas of my house that I want to work on decluttering. I thought I would have more time in the first quarter. I haven't. So I'm kind of focusing on finishing homeschool, and then hopefully I will be able to get to that in the second-ish quarter. The next goal is my continue to lean into and pursue passions. And this is partly my homeschool goal. It's showing my kids that they can also follow their passions and helping them find the resources they need and to structure their time, working on time management, working on exploration of interests and different ideas, as well as getting our homeschool work done. And then the other side of that goal is me showing the kids that I am also pursuing my passions, because I don't want my kids to see me as constantly working all the time. That is one of the reasons that I have this create a rhythm of renewal goal this year, is because I don't want my kids to just see that their mom homeschools, cleans, and works. Homeschools, cleans, and works. Because that isn't what I want for my kids. I want them to be pursuing their passions. Now, obviously, my work is a passion or I wouldn't be doing it. I love to encourage other homeschool moms. I love to talk about goals. I love to talk about home management and systems to cultivate simplicity in your home and your homeschool. It's so important to me. It's why I continue to do it. So they do see that passion work, but the busyness. Yes, there are always going to be to-do lists, but it doesn't have to always be to-do lists. So working on that is something that's very important to me, and it's something important to share with my kids. The next goal, continue to grow my faith, which I am doing. I had joined a Read Through the Bible group in October, I think, and we have been reading through the Bible. I think it's like a 2 or 3 year plan. So it's only like 1 or 2 chapters a day. I have fallen behind over the past several weeks because we were sick in February. We were trying to catch up from being sick, and then we had a week of a lot of appointments and stuff. So I am behind, but I do hope to catch up, and it won't be that difficult to catch up because it's not a ton of reading that I've missed. So that is going well. It is during my morning routine, so it's already kind of baked in, but the other resources, the other faith resources that I use, and guided journals and prayer journals and all of that stuff, a lot of that is in my tier 2 of my morning routine, which, as I've already mentioned, has not been happening lately. So I'm trying to figure out where I can put those other things throughout my day to still get them done. And I think that it will end up changing as the seasons change. You know, this is a really focused homeschool time for us. The winter months, we do a lot of book work, a lot of sit down work, a lot of research papers, that kind of stuff, because it's the best time really to be doing that. In the fall, we're out a lot more. The weather is nice, and that's just how it is. So winter is our really book heavy season for homeschool, and I'm just trying to really focus on that. Okay. And then the last goal is continue to nurture my finances, which I have been doing. I use an Erin Condren monthly planner to do all of my budgeting. I have a whole budget series if you're interested in that. I need to be better about having my Fridays be my spend tracking day. I had been doing really well with the spend tracking, and I am still getting it done, but I've really relaxed when I get it done. And so sometimes I'll do it on a Tuesday, sometimes I'll do it on Friday, sometimes I'll do it on the weekend. Sometimes I won't do it for a couple of weeks, and then I just power through all of the purchases and categorizing of things. So I do need to work on that a little bit more. I've kind of gotten a little lax with it because I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly why I'm doing these things. And technically, I could really just do it once a month and categorize everything, just spend a few hours doing that. But I don't want it to be that because it takes so long to write out all the purchases and categorize everything and create my reports. It makes more sense if I do that weekly, or even, a couple of times a week. But I haven't quite figured out when I should be doing that. So that is something that I do need to focus on at some point. I don't know if it will be in the spring. So then going through all of my action plans, I have things like decluttering and research estate planning, which I have not done. I have worked a lot on my habits, my finances, I've done quite a bit. Thinking about vacation, I've done because we want to take a vacation soon. Homeschool, screen-free days, I've gotten a lot of these projects done, and so I do feel really good about the progress that I've made during the first quarter. There are some things that have shifted. My theme for the year, Simplify, I spent a lot of time really recognizing what simplify means to me. I'm reading the book right now called Slow Productivity by Cal Newport, and he kind of got this idea from the slow food movement, which started so long ago. It had a resurgence like in the early 2000s, and a lot about local food, a lot about enjoying the process of eating and gathering together with food. And so this slow productivity book is really interesting to me because it's saying a lot of things that I already practice or things that I talk about in my membership community. And so it's always fun to see professionals, quote unquote professionals, reiterate some of the same things that you talk about on the regular. So that has been really good. I think that understanding how I want my life to be, some of the bigger changes like the technology usage and things like that, it's been really interesting. I think that as I go through the next several months, hopefully I will get a lot of the decluttering stuff done. I really want to ruthlessly declutter and then practice the de-owning part that sometimes I forget about. De-owning is something that I heard Brooke McAllery talk about on her podcast years ago, and essentially what that means is when you get rid of things, you shouldn't then replace them with other things to bring into your house. I like how Dana White, I think that's her name, talks about your home is a container. You can only have as much stuff in your home as the containers that you have in your home. And so that's things like books. It's things like files. It's things like kids' toys and clothes and all of that stuff. And I just don't want to store as much stuff as we have been. So I do want to go through and ruthlessly declutter, go through the memory bins, really focus on paring things down, involving my kids, because a lot of the stuff is their stuff that they may want eventually or they may not want. And so that is also part of it. And it's not something that we could do in the first quarter because we've been focusing on homeschool. So this is kind of my part one of my seasonal refresh. I will come back soon and share more about what I hope to do in the next season. It's just a little bit different this year for me. I feel like everything is just a little bit different, and I don't know if it's how I'm thinking about goals. I don't know if it's because of how I'm managing my time or kind of my shift in thinking on a lot of the topics that I've worked on for so long. It's really been, I don't know, like a soul searching time. I don't feel like I've changed all that much, but I do feel like I'm focusing on some different areas of my life that I haven't, because I had gotten into such good rhythms for some things. I'm very efficient with my time. I am able to get stuff done in small amounts of time, but I was noticing that I was always using those small amounts of time for to-do list items and work tasks, and I don't want that to be everything for me. So that's where we're going to leave off. I will be back. I do want to share my quarterly action plans with you, the projects that I have to work on coming up, but I do just need to focus on finishing up homeschool before I can get to that point. So it's possible that this year my quarterly refresh or my action plans might not be until the end of April, and it might be for May and June, and then just July and August are the summer months this year. So it will be interesting to see how that all pans out. It's very fluid. I don't like to have rigid schedules. That bothers me a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of go with the flow right now and understand my limitations. I think that's really important. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to do this first part of the video. Understand the seasons that you are in. Your season could be a really super productive season. You are able to just get things done, and that is amazing. Or it could be a really challenging season where you don't have just the time to put into the goals that you want to do. And that's also okay. It could be a time of burnout where you feel like you've done so much and you're just kind of like hitting a wall and you need to take a step back and reevaluate. That's okay. It could be that you thought you were going to be able to get a lot of stuff done, but your priorities shifted and then you understood where your limitations were, which is where I am at this moment. So it's okay if you have to change things up. I think that that's very valuable for you to recognize when it happens instead of trying to force the square peg through the round hole. That's just kind of something that you have to recognize, and it is something that I have recognized. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you found some value in it. Again, I would love for you to come check out my membership community. We have such a lot of fun over there. It's a great community of women. I would love for you to join us. So thank you again for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.